Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, into another YouTube live show tonight. I am John Kurtz. Let me get this mic a little bit further out of the way so it's not just right in your face. I feel like that was shoved right in your face there. Welcome in. Studio looking a little different right now. Hope you guys like that. A little bit different of a vibe here. Not quite done finishing this all up yet. Didn't get it quite done in time for football season, but hey, that's the headline. It's football season. Damn it. We've got two games to talk about from the Big 12. And just a fun football weekend overall. Did you guys see the YouTube kicker from Hawaii beating Stanford? That was great. Yes, of course, I'm doing everything I can to not talk about Iowa State, K-State, right? Now, my question today is, did we see one, two, or three legitimate playoff contenders in the Big 12 in action on Saturday? Because I would listen to arguments for one, two, or three. I'll give you my opinion. Coming up here today, the aftermath of everything, what it means for Iowa State, what it means for K-State, even get into what does it mean for the other Big 12 contenders after having watched that? How should you feel? And that's going to be the main basis of the show. Like we've got nine conference games rather in the SEC as a headline as well. I may save that until midweek to talk about what exactly that means. What is it going to mean for the future of the college football playoff? I mean, that's really the question is what is that going to do for how things progress now in this battle between 5+11 or 4-4-2-2, or if we're going 24-28. But we had football, so I want to talk football here today because there is a lot to digest and break down from everything that happened. Okay, so as always, you can be a big part of the conversation. In order to do so, obviously, light up the chat room, which looks like it is pretty lit, as the kids say so far. So thank you to everybody who is here. But obviously, keep the comments coming. If you want to guarantee that your question or comment makes it on the show tonight, you can click the $ below the chat box. Click the $ below the chat box in order to submit a super chat and guarantee that your question or comment makes it on. So love that. Appreciate that. Great to see everybody again. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo. If you're not watching live and you want to be a part of the conversation, leave me a question or comment there. And if you do so, I will kick off the next show with it. So you can still be a part of this entire conversation that we are about to have here. And as always, of course, subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter, ofbnews.com. That's ofbnews.com to do that. And hey, if you do, you're going to get Big 12 news, headlines, my columns straight to your inbox twice a week for free, and join 5,000 plus other Big 12 fans who do. We are about to hit 5,100. So thank you to everybody who continues to subscribe at ofbnews.com. Loving some of the comments that I'm seeing so far. I am laughing at some of the comments I am seeing so far. But man, college football is back, and this was a weekend all about the Big 12 because by far the two best games of the weekend came out of Big 12 country. Obviously, we know about Farmageddon, but we also had Kansas and Fresno State. And when I say best games, I don't mean just the finish. Obviously, Kansas-Fresno was kind of a whitewashing. But in terms of games that had the most draw to them at the outset based on the teams that were playing in them, okay? The real question I have coming out of this opening weekend, week 0 for the Big 12, is did the entire country watch 1, 2, or 3 legit playoff contenders from the Big 12 conference on Saturday? And I also want to make this point. If anybody tells you that what we saw on Saturday was not a great showcase of football by the Big 12, I need you to turn around and tell them that they're everything that's wrong with the sport right now. Okay? Because that was driving me nuts, some of the reaction that I saw, especially early on to what was going on in the day on Saturday. Okay? So let's first talk Farmageddon. K-State beats Iowa State 24-21. You also have, later on we'll get to, Fresno loses 31-7 to Kansas. Kansas, I do think, showed signs, at least, that they can be a legit Big 12 title contender. But everybody felt like K-State and Iowa State were legit Big 12 title contenders going into their matchup against each other, thus making them playoff contenders, right? That's a lot of this conversation. Don't get thrown by the playoff. That basically means Big 12 title contender, because if you are a playoff contender. Now, I thought it wound up being a great football game and a great display for the Big 12. I don't think everything about it was good, but some of that was out of the Big 12 and the Big 12 teams playing's control, right? You have Aer Lingus, Aviva Stadium, whoever is in charge of keeping the field intact and not being just an abject mess. That did not go well. Like, we barely had hash marks, which was leading to no yellow first down lines on the field. It was raining in the first half, which there were drops everywhere. Nobody could hang onto the ball. You had 4 fumbles in the first quarter and a half and a bunch of drops. Like, it made for bad football. It also, I would say, because the field conditions were so bad and there were no hash marks, I mean, it really led to K-State getting screwed on a 4th down conversion call that you just eyeball that. It's like, how does that not get measured? And then how does that not get overturned? And what is the official doing on the spot? I don't know. All of it was weird. I would not even come close to blaming the loss on that at all. But it was kind of a bad look. Like, hey, man, if we could at least keep the field in order, maybe we could have a little better shot to get this call right. Anyway, the sloppiness is where I get frustrated here because everyone wants to get their jokes off on Twitter, right? And I'd be curious to pull some of the people that were getting those jokes off early on, how they felt by the end of the game. Because early on, it's the first game of the season. It's 2 conference opponents that know each other inside and out. You put them in a driving rainstorm overseas in Ireland where there's not great footing, nobody can hold onto the ball, and you can barely see yard markers on the field. Like, yeah, of course you're going to get some sloppy football. You know, I mean, that's not the Big 12 being a bad conference. That's not these 2 teams being bad. That is circumstantial. And then as the game wore on and you saw the rain let up, we saw a great football game in the second half. So this is what I hate. You know, you get this, this wouldn't happen with SEC teams, or, this is what happens when you send the Big 12 over there to open up the season. You tell anybody that's saying that they are the problem with college football and college sports right now, because what we got was like everything that is great about college football. We did get some quirkiness. We got some weirdness. We got some highs and lows. We got guys muffing punts. We got a toss sweep from the 1 yard line that turns into a fumble. I can't believe that was the play call with the rainstorm, but hey, that is college football. But then you got some great, huge back-breaking plays on both sides. 24 combined points in the fourth quarter, 31 combined points in the last 16 minutes of the game, if you take it back a minute into the third quarter for an Iowa State touchdown there. It was great. And you got a wild finish between 2 rivals with fan bases that care a lot, because you had like 15,000 fans apiece on either side, 15 to 20. I'm trying to remember the numbers I was seeing. You just had it packed full of 2 fan bases that hate each other and really care. And it was an awesome environment and a great finish and a great ending with the zaniness along the way. Like, that is college football. That's what it should be. That's what we love about it. It's a great showcase for why football matters outside of just the Big Ten and the SEC. All right. It had something for everyone, even the bettors. All right. If you're a bettor on this game, no matter who you had covering the spread, it was up in the air until the very end. Like, Iowa State's driving up by 3, which means if you're K-State -3, you've still got a good shot. K-State needs a stop and a score, and you're going to cover. And then on the other side, obviously, if Iowa State gets the first down, runs out the clock, that's not going to happen. Then if you got the over-under, that came down to, hey, a review of Carson Hansen not quite getting in, and then Iowa State taking kneels. So it had something for everyone, all right. But as far as the game, okay, more of the content of the game specifically for these 2 teams. I know some of you are screaming like, John, what do you think about this? Well, I think there's one massive takeaway from this game, and that is, while I think these are both 2 pretty good teams, there is a clear difference between the programs right now, and that was on full display. Iowa State is a tougher, grittier program that just has more of an edge to it. That's the phrase I keep coming back to. Iowa State has more of an edge to them as a program, and has, now for the last 6 years, they've beaten K-State 5 of the last 6 years. And one down season there. Kleiman does not have quite that, like what Iowa State had with the 4-win season in 2022. But it's impossible to deny at this point that they are just grittier and tougher and make plays in big moments when they need them. in this series. I don't think it's totally fair to discount either one of these teams as Big 12 title contenders. I also don't think it's totally fair to say, hey, even Iowa State, like, oh, they're like the Big 12 favorite right now or anything like that. I think they both looked like they're pretty good teams that were playing a first game in a rainstorm in Ireland. And it's really hard to know exactly what to make of it. But what we do know for sure is that, I think it starts like top down. Like Iowa State's a reflection of Matt Campbell's personality. And you can say what you will about him. You can say what you will about his comments at one point about, we're not trying to win championships or whatever. And he's a no nonsense guy. Whereas Chris Kleiman is a little more of like, hey, players coach, laid back. I think K-State's team has more of that personality to it. We could argue about which team has a higher talent level. I think in terms of being like faster and more athletic on paper, that really should be K-State. But man, I mean, look at a couple examples here. There's a 4th and short late in the game, or in the second half anyway, for Rocco Becht in Iowa State. He's running an option. VJ Payne, K-State's all Big 12 safety, comes in to hit him. Rocco Becht breaks through it, falls forward, gets a first down. Avery Johnson has a 4th and 1 on a crucial drive in the fourth quarter. He gets smacked. And again, I think he did get it on that spot, but you got to get it with no doubt. And he didn't. And Rocco Becht did. And it's moments like that. I mean, if we're going to take the quarterbacks, and there's a lot of discourse among K-State fans about Avery Johnson and how he played. Well, hell, there's a lot of discourse about Avery Johnson nationally because he's such a name that people know. But I mean, I don't think he played poor. I think he looked improved at the end of the day, like passing the ball. I think he looked improved a bit from last year, and the numbers, not just the stats, but PFF grades, I mean, favor him over Rocco Becht substantially. If you look at PFF, all right, and I know it's flawed, but that's why I'm going to give you multiple different metrics here. Pro Football Focus gave Avery Johnson an 85.2 overall. They gave Rocco Becht a 69.4. PFF gave Avery Johnson an 80.8 passing the ball. They gave Rocco Becht a 67.4. They gave Avery Johnson a 76.8 running the ball. They gave Rocco Becht a 62. That actually kind of surprised me because I think the one area that is still a little bit frustrating with Avery is he just runs kind of tentatively, and it doesn't seem like he is real confident in following blockers, picking a lane, taking it, and just going. But numbers across the board from PFF favor Avery Johnson easily. If you go by NFL passer rating, right? Think about passer rating in the NFL, how they calculate it. Avery Johnson, 117.6. If you look at the grading scale that comes up with that, that's considered an excellent or elite performance. Rocco Becht was 94.79, which is considered good to very good. But again, the scale would tip toward Avery Johnson's game. Just traditional stats. You say, hey, John, give me traditional stats. Avery Johnson completed 70% of his passes. Rocco Becht completed 50% of his passes. Avery Johnson, 273 yards. Becht, 183. They both had 2 touchdowns and no picks. But here's the difference. I'll set all of that up to say, like, at the end of the day, I mean, if I ask you guys to a man in the chat, and I'm sure there's some of this, I'm not even paying attention to what's in there, you're probably taking Rocco Becht as your quarterback, and it's because he made the plays when it mattered. 4th down conversions. Iowa State is 3 of 3. K-State's 1 of 4. Now, Matt Wells maddeningly took the ball out of Avery Johnson's hands and didn't even use the threat of his legs on a 3rd and 4th and 1 back-to-back plays in the first half, which sure sucked. But I already brought up the 2 4th and shorts where Avery Johnson gets whacked and Rocco Becht gets the first down. He's the guy making the tougher, grittier plays when they have the 4th down to ice the game. I mean, first of all, I think Iowa State's offensive staff just kind of pantsed K-State's defensive staff on that one. Got a great play call schemed up. But it's Rocco Becht, again, making a play. Avery Johnson had a chance on one of those short yardage 3rd down plays where he's trying to hit Garrett Oakley on a similar sort of play, just like duck an H-back tight end out there, and he doesn't lead him very well in that pass. It got to him, but it wasn't in a position where he could run for the first down, and it stayed short. These are the types of things, like Rocco Becht is making those plays right now, and Avery, well, he looked better. I'm not going to come down on him and crush him. I mean, it's game 1, and he played a really good defense, again, in all the circumstances that I outlined. I don't think there's reason to be incredibly down on Avery Johnson, but right now Becht is the guy that makes the plays, and it's pretty representative of the team and the program and the difference between them right now. If we're looking at some other things that stand out, I mean, Iowa State found a way to adjust. Like Iowa State's defense shut down K-State's run game the entire game. Meanwhile, Iowa State up front out-physicaled K-State in the second half, and they found a way to run the ball. When nobody could run the ball in the first half, Iowa State found a way to do it. And K-State's retooled offensive line with a new offensive line coach just got stonewalled pretty much the entire game. Now, in fairness, without RB1, didn't have Dylan Edwards, who muffs the punt, goes out of the game with an injury literally like 2 minutes into the game. So, I mean, that probably blew up some of the game plan. But anybody could have watched that game with the naked eye and said K-State's offensive line is not having a good day. They were fine in pass pro, but they were not having a good day on the ground. If we're talking about 3rd and 4th down, again, making key plays when you need it most, Iowa State holds K-State to 6 of 20 on 3rd and 4th down. So, look, man, I mean, Chris Kleiman's a player's coach. He's recruited much better as his time has gone on. There's much more talent in the program than there was when Bill Snyder was there at the end of his run in 2.0. But they tend to beat themselves. They don't win in the margins, and their special teams is horrendous. This is that K-State fans know that listen to me regularly. It's the thing that drives me the most insane. But for a program that prided itself so much on special teams, I understand in today's day and age, you can't win on special teams quite the way that you used to be able to, but you can certainly not lose. And K-State special teams just all across the board, outside of Chris Tennant, who was a good kicker last year. I mean, since they've had Nate Katzer as the special teams coach, they've just been bad. They continue to set them back in virtually every single phase of special teams. It's unbelievable to me how far that's fallen. And you're making mistakes, far more penalized. K-State had way more penalties in the game than Iowa State did. We've outlined the turnovers. Iowa State had some too when they were sloppy, but they made up for it when they needed to most. K-State does not. Iowa State obviously is now a Big 12 title contender legitimately. I mean, their schedule looks pretty favorable at the moment. I would not completely discount K-State from that discussion. I still think that they have enough skill on their roster to do it, but the road certainly got a lot harder. And, unfortunately, there's, for those who are too online and have been on social media this afternoon, I mean, you saw that, Dylan Edwards had a social post about being upset with people doubting him and what happened after he went out of the game. And so it's just like there's some drama, I guess, is the point already to K-State's season. Now they have very little margin for error. But I still think the roster is good enough to do it if they can put it all together. But that seems like a long road at this point. It's only going to happen one step at a time. And now, I mean, maybe you've got Kansas in the rearview mirror coming up too, with both K-State and Iowa State. Kansas will get a shot at both of those teams. So they will be on Iowa State's schedule. I just said, hey, Iowa State looks like they have a favorable schedule, and that's a big part of the reason why you consider them for sure a contender now. And they've got one of their most difficult games on the schedule out of the way already in the Big 12 race. But watch out for Kansas too. Kansas is on that schedule for the Clones. Kansas is on that schedule. All right, let's check in here with the chat. Please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. You can submit a super chat by clicking the $ below the chat box. And John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo is another way to contribute to the channel if you would like to be a part of it. Julius, thank you for being here. Julius says, howdy, John. Sorry for the K-State defeat. Go Big 12. Go Cougs. Hey, it's okay, Julius. Totally understand. I appreciate, first of all, that you come and offer me some condolences, and I appreciate your support of the channel as always. Looking forward to Thursday to get the first look at Bear Bachmeyer and company and BYU. Have you guys looked at the schedule this week, man? From Thursday through Monday, you got Big 12 football all over the place. Handful of games on Thursday, handful of games on Friday, handful of games on Saturday. You've got TCU and North Carolina on Monday. It's going to be awesome, man. It's going to be awesome. I'm thinking about, I'll plant this idea. Chat, let me know what you think of this. Thinking about trying to do like a watch along on either Thursday and or Monday. I won't be able to do it Friday, but Thursday and or Monday. So like Thursday, we've got a couple games earlier on, and then we've got a later start. It's 8 o'clock for Cincinnati and Nebraska, which Cincy, my guys. Scott Satterfield, I've never doubted you for a second. But I would like to do like a watch along. We just sit and watch the game, chop it up, and see what happens. So if you're interested, let me know in that. Would like to just try it out and see how it goes. Alan, what's up, Alan? Thank you again, Julius. Alan says, John, tough loss for K-State. Know how it feels to lose every year to your rival. Iowa State looked really good. 2-loss team could win the Big 12. Great for KU. Mizzou first real test, going for 10 wins. Rock Chalk Jayhawk, Alan. Yeah, I mean, I'll get into it in more in depth later, Alan. It's hard to know exactly what Fresno State is, but that's more than like it was Lindenwood, I believe, that Kansas opened the season with last year, right? I mean, that's got more meat on the bone than Lindenwood for sure. And Kansas just walloped them. I mean, I watched the first 3 quarters until it was really out of hand. 2.5 to 3 quarters until it got to 31-7. Then I was fading in and out a little bit on watching that and watching the YouTube kicker instead for Hawaii. But tell you what, Kansas looked really good, really sharp. That offense looked awesome. And that was the biggest issue last year, right? It definitely does not look like it's going to be another 2024 where the offense takes a bunch of time to get up to speed. So anyway, Alan, appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for being here. And thank you for your support of the channel. As always, I can't wait for that Mizzou game. That is going to be an awesome, awesome one to watch. Okay. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter at ofbnews.com. That's ofbnews.com, or click the link in the description of this video. I think I put that there. I think I got that in the description of this video. Anyway, you guys know, ofbnews.com, ofbnews.com. So one thing I do want to talk about from the aftermath of this game, total best case scenario weekend for Iowa State. Total worst case scenario weekend for K-State. I'm not sure that everybody understands fully the implications and the build up to what happened on Saturday, and how crazy it is that one possession basically determines ecstasy and agony. And I know that's in general true for a win and a loss, but there's more baked into this one, and it is something the rest of the Big 12 should pay attention to, because it's a part of the reality of revenue sharing and where the Big 12 is financially right now. Okay. So this game is in Ireland. And I think it's easy to look at it and be like, oh yeah, okay, cool. They're playing a conference game in Ireland, whatever. And not think about, well, wait, who gave up a home game in this? Well, the answer to that is K-State. K-State gave up a home game. And when this was announced a couple of years ago, there was some real heat from K-State fans, and understandably so. I mean, you can see the upside, but you can understand the downside. The downside, obviously, you're like, well, man, we're giving up a home game, taking a game away from the local economy, but even more so than that, just you're taking one of the few opportunities the fans have to go and see you play one of your rivals, like Iowa State. Think about this for K-State fans. The Iowa State game's already been taken off the schedule in 27, which more on that. Brett Yormark got asked about that, and we have, I think, some news on that front. But that's a game that's not going to happen for a while in Manhattan. You took a game away from the fans getting a chance to see that. And the last time that K-State played Iowa State in Manhattan was 2023, when there was so much snow in the Snowmageddon game. The crowd couldn't really, it was there weren't as many people there because it was hard to get to. K-State was already out of the Big 12 title race. You didn't have so it's been a while, man. You're going to go a long time without getting a full throat, legit crowd at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. So the fans were not thrilled with this, right? But you could also see the upside. Get a chance to have everybody watching you. Go search Avery Johnson on Twitter. Well, maybe not the greatest idea at this moment in time. If you could have done it at about 3 o'clock, right after the game ended, you would have seen a lot of people talking about Avery Johnson. The point being, you got your brand, your team in front of a ton of eyeballs. If you win the game, if you play well, if he shows out, that's great branding that you can't get anywhere else. We'll see what the TV number is going to be, but if it's anywhere near the 5 million that North Carolina, or rather that Florida State and Georgia Tech did last year, crazy good number for a Big 12 game. You get more eyeballs on your product. You also get a really cool trip for your fans and players, and you get a couple extra $1 million. They're reporting it at the time this game happened was that K-State was expecting to get like around $2 million extra dollars from what they get for a home game. And that is the part where I say this relates to everybody. I mean, like almost every Big 12 athletic department right now is like sweating it out. Like, how do we pay for all this revenue sharing stuff? How do we get $20 million? Well, if you can get $2 million extra dollars to do this while trying to elevate your brand, sometimes you'll do it. Now, K-State fans, if you want to direct your ire somewhere, it looks like you could direct it a bunch of places, because before the game, Gene Taylor told a story to a national reporter about, hey, Chris Kleiman, he didn't think would ever do it, but he mentioned it to him, and Kleiman eventually decided to do it. So if you're going by that story, you could put the blame multiple places. Either way, they did it, and instead it turned into a nightmare scenario for K-State, because now, I mean, you gave up a home game, and look at the way that game played out. Now, who knows if it were a home game still on the Big 12 schedule, it probably is played in November. So who knows what those teams are by then and how it looks and all that. But if they're really that evenly matched in a game like that, the home crowd matters a whole hell of a lot to help get you over the hump, to help stem the tide when things aren't going well. That home crowd really matters, okay? Especially in a rivalry game where these two sides hate each other as much as they do right now. That's a killer, man. If you would have had that exact same game playing out the way that it was, but it was in Manhattan at Bill Snyder Family Stadium, I mean, I think you've got a much better chance of winning it, just to help limit some of those stakes, force Iowa State into a couple more mistakes, especially in the first half when things were a little sloppier. Like, maybe you take advantage of some of the opportunities. K-State with 4 drives in the middle portion of that game, second and third quarter, into Iowa State territory that wound up with 0 points. Maybe that doesn't happen. Now you lost that opportunity. You lost the game. I mentioned you're not going to get an opportunity like that against Iowa State in your home field for a long time. And then Iowa State gets to go take, hey, sweet, our fans get to go take this awesome trip to Ireland. They show out too on national TV. Both fan bases did. Then they win. They avoid having to go to Manhattan. And now they've got arguably the toughest game on their schedule out of the way with a win in their back pocket. And they get to go back home happy. Like, that's brutal, man. It's a brutal thing for K-State, and it's a terrific thing for Iowa State. I mean, on the other hand, I will just say this: if we're thinking about how do other Big 12 contenders view the result of this game and what happened, you would say, well, regardless of whether or not you think Iowa State played well, or if that's appropriate to be a reflection of their team this early in the season in adverse conditions, they just beat one of the other contenders to get that game out of the way, and they avoid Baylor, they avoid Texas Tech, they avoid Utah on their conference schedule. They do have Arizona State, right? That could be a Big 12 game of the year. They've got Arizona State, they've got TCU, they've got Kansas. Like I said, don't sleep on that. They've got Kansas. But with that schedule, at least as of right now, without knowing much about what these teams will be, and it was a fool's errand to try and do this at this time last year, but it does look like they've got a pretty manageable schedule, and they got a big one out of the way. So I think you got to say, if you're another contender, you're just like, hey, dude, they're going to be around. Now, I see the comment here from SibBase, BYU erasure. I need to see what BYU is going to be, man. You got a true freshman quarterback starting for the game one for the first time in school history. Like, I think it's fair to, like, hey, yes, BYU is on Iowa State's schedule. Okay. I will mention that, but I don't really know what BYU is right now. I really don't. So we'll wait and see. I mean, I'm optimistic. I hope Bear Bachmeier is awesome. You know, basically, I'm really rooting for that. Certainly this week, I'm rooting for that to see what that looks like. But point being, Iowa State should absolutely be considered right in there now. And then, you know, I mean, if you're talking about what the weekend was like for K-State fans, you also have Kansas showing off its new stadium, which looked fantastic. The team looked fantastic. It's on Big Boy Fox to cap off the day right after your loss. And then obviously, like, just a lot of drama, a lot of stuff happening off the field, man. I'm not going to belabor the point or spend too much time on it, but, you know, what happened with the father of QB1 and brother of QB1, not a good look. not something that brings good attention to anything, just like insult to injury after the game. And yeah, you add all that up, it worked out about as well as it possibly could have for Iowa State fans. I'm not sure that Iowa State fans could have come out of that feeling much better at all. So, if you're into the Schadenfreude thing, the pain of your enemy or whatever, a lot of that to be had. And that, my friends, is college football. Remember when I said that this was all just like a great representation of college football? What happened in week 0 in the Big 12? That's a big part of it. That is a big, big part of it. All right, please like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter, ofbnews.com, in order to do that. ofbnews.com. We've got to say hello to my friends at SeatGeek, ladies and gentlemen. So please allow me to let SeatGeek take center stage. If you need some tickets, if you've not used SeatGeek before, you can get $20 off your first order. So looking around at all those different ticketing sites, use SeatGeek if you haven't used it before, because you're going to save $20 over anybody else. All right. College football season is here, guys, and that means we all need to find good deals on tickets. All right. And the best place to do that is SeatGeek. Have to give a huge shout out to SeatGeek, the sponsor of today's video. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There are over 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek. So obviously college football is covered, but if you're a music guy like me, it's perfect for concerts. I'm buying a ton of concert tickets this fall. And I tell you what, I have my eye on those Holy War tickets for BYU and Utah coming up as well. And man, all you got to do is open up the app. It's perfect. You can go check what's going on here, find the green dots in the seat. That means they're good deals. Red dots, maybe not so much, but SeatGeek will help you find the best deals on seats depending on where it is that you are trying to sit. They're each rated on a scale of 1 to 10. Every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. And you guys know I'm here for you. I've got a code for you. Code Kurtz gets you $20 off your tickets. Again, that's code Kurtz for $20 off tickets at SeatGeek. $20 off your first purchase with promo code Kurtz. Make sure you just click the link in the description to download the app and have that code on hand and ready to go. Guys, I'm here to help you out. I've got your back. Hit up my friends at SeatGeek. All righty. You heard the man. Let's address this real quick. I think this is fun. First of all, Penn State Sports Talk. I appreciate that you're here, man. Thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out with us in Big 12 country. It says there was a build up to this. We are not pleased with Iowa State and Kansas State. The Big 12 offense was bad yesterday, but I think Texas Tech should be good. I mean, let me ask you this. Penn State, I feel like this is a great example. Big 10 football. If you threw Penn State and Iowa out there on a field, right? Like, it's not quite the fierce rivalry that K-State, Iowa State is, but Iowa is always going to have a good defense. And you put it in a driving rainstorm where there's barely yard markers on the field, and it's literally the first game of the season against a team that you know pretty well, like you guys really know each other inside and out. What do you think the Penn State and Iowa offenses would have looked like? And it was only a half where the offense was bad. In the second half, we had 14 combined points in the first half. It was 7-7 at halftime. So then you have 17 and 14. You got 31 points in the second half, and it basically was 38 because Iowa State ducked down at the half-yard line at the end of the game. So I don't think it's a fair take, Penn State Sports Talk. I think if we would have thrown Penn State and Drew Aller and company out there against, everyone thinks Iowa's new transfer quarterback is going to light the world on fire side, but if you threw Iowa and Penn State out there doing that, I think it would have looked very, very similar. Very similar. Okay, here we go. 28-17 us. Do you realize, Penn State Sports Talk, that would be 45 combined points? Do you know how many combined points there were in the K-State Iowa State game? There were 45 combined points. So you just argued for the exact same thing that we saw from Big 12 schools out there. But I presume you would be saying 28-17 would not be some bad offensive display. So this is where, look, Penn State fan, I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're here. But this is where that Big 10, like SEC bias comes in, where it's just so easy. Oh, Big 12 teams, they suck because, of course, it's the Big 12, and that's my preconceived notion. No, if you think about it, the same thing would have happened. And you literally just outlined the same game happening with the same point total happening, and now it's fine because we're in the Big 10. So let's just chill on that. All right, let's just treat everyone fairly. We're about equality here. We're about equality here. Okay. All right. Everybody's been clamoring for the Big 12 to change how they do protected rivalries, right? I think that's the least popular thing in the Big 12. Well, the door has been open for it to actually happen. Okay. It's creeping open to get K-State, Iowa State, Baylor, Texas Tech, Tech, TCU back to being played every single year instead of 3 of 4, right? I'm telling you, I feel like this is very underreported right now. I'm not seeing anybody hardly talk about this at all. But the Big 12, right, when they went to 16 schools with the 4 corner schools being added, you have to tweak the schedule a little bit. They opt for a system that would allow teams to play. I do get a little frustrated as I start to say this. And I've been someone that my stance has kind of been, I just don't care all that much about the protected rivalry thing. I'm starting to get it more. The more we're in it and in the thick of it, I'm starting to get it more, because what the Big 12 did is they basically opted for a system that's trying to create new rivalries more so by having everybody play each other at least twice over a 4-year period instead of just linking up with the regional stuff and making sure that these games that have been played forever, because these teams have been around each other forever, are played every single year. So what you ran into that had people really, really upset is K-State, Iowa State. They've been playing every year since 1917. They've been playing every year since 1917, and you're not going to have a game next year. No, 2027. I'm sorry, 27. So people are furious about that potentially happening. Texas Tech, Baylor. Is that this year? That's this year, right? That we're not getting the butt game. That's not happening. Texas Tech, TCU is another one of those that's going to miss in the cycle. Oklahoma State, Texas Tech will miss in the cycle. Kansas, Iowa State, they first played in 1898. They've played almost every year since 1916. You're not going to get that at one point in this cycle. So people naturally are very upset. Rivalries are something that can be a selling point for TV, which is one of the biggest things that you got to worry about right now. Is making the TV partners happy, getting as much money out of that TV contract as you possibly can. The more you have great rivalries like the Holy War, BYU, Utah, like that's prime TV real estate. Like people want to watch that. That was incredible theater last year when they played. I also understand saying, hey, we want to try to develop some new rivalries by getting these teams to play. I just don't know if you really have that luxury. I just don't know that you have that luxury, especially when you've got built-in things. Farmageddon being probably the top of that list. Like that's built in with a lot of recent hatred, animosity, and close games. It's always a close game. There's always zany, weird things happening to it. It's got a brand at this point. Brett Yormark loves branding. Like that game has a legit brand to it at this point. It's something that probably should be played. And so, okay, hey, it gets asked to Brett Yormark this weekend. Brett Yormark did a press conference at one point this weekend around the Aer Lingus College Football. It's the College Football Classic, Aer Lingus College Football Classic that happens in Ireland. Brett Yormark has to step up to the podium. And so he got asked about it. And I think if you're somebody that's been really upset about this, you've been clamoring for change, I think you are going to be at least reasonably happy with this answer from Brett Yormark. So let's see. Courtesy of Ben Hutchins on Twitter. All right. Shout out to Ben for putting this up there. We'll see. I'll see if you guys can hear this. Actually, as I'm realizing this, you may not be able to hear it. I'm going to play it. If you can't hear it, just bear with me for a second and I will explain it all to you.
This is, I believe, the 108th year straight for this rivalry. It's one of the longest continuous series in college football. And yet the Big 12 ended in 2027. There's a chance of revisiting that because rivalries are a sales point for TV, and this one win in that year.
It's been a great rivalry, and I agree with you. Rivalries matter, and the TV partners like those rivalries, but most importantly, the fans do. So I will defer, to the gentleman to my right and left to determine what those rivalries look like moving forward. But certainly, this is a classic, and I'm looking forward to today's game.
Well, the Big 12 schedule is what ended that rivalry.
But we have a working committee that works with our head of football and determining what that schedule looks like. And it was the committee's decision that certain things have to change moving forward.
If possible. All right, my fault there on the AV execution of that. That was poorly done, poor planning on my fault, but on my part. But yes, Pacific Northwest Ute is correct here. If you were unable to hear it there, and once again, that's my fault. He said, quote, "I defer to the gentleman to my right and my left," which of course are the athletic directors, Jamie Pollard at Iowa State and Gene Taylor at K-State. There was then a follow-up question about like, well, hey, I mean, it's the Big 12 schedule matrix that did this. Like, you guys kind of did this. A great follow-up question there. I believe that was Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com. And after the follow-up question, he was like, well, it's really like we're in concert talking with these guys about what we're doing scheduling-wise. He's basically throwing the ball in the court of the athletic directors. He's basically throwing the ball in the court of the athletic directors, saying, hey, if these guys want it, I take that to be, if these guys want it bad enough and everybody seems really upset about this, we can find a way to change it and make it happen. That sure seemed to me like it's opening the door to it. Now, the problem with it, it might be, as and Teller 580, I'm going to get to you here in just a moment. But CivBase here says, I wonder if Jamie Pollard regrets not trying to protect Farmageddon. Right. That may be your problem. Gene Taylor may be looking at this like we gotta get rid of this thing, man. We're losing every year. We've lost 3 straight and 5 of 6. That's another thing that happened this weekend. Gene Taylor talked a little smack on Iowa State wearing black all the time at the K-State pep rally, and then Matt Campbell dunked on that in the postgame press conference. Everyone at K-State right now may want to just take a beat, take a breather, and back away from the Farmageddon. But I mean, in all seriousness, I think the fans would really want it, and that would be in line. Next year, you're gonna have to go to Ames. That would be in line to be a K-State home game in 27. So I think you could probably get both gentlemen back on board with it. We shall see. You can say, I see, it's a total non-answer. All gas, no breakfast, total non-answer. All 3 of those yahoos don't care, don't know how much it's right. They know how much it means to fans. They know how much it means to fans. At least Gene Taylor and Jamie Pollard do. I'll give you a pass. Brett Yormark, if you want to say he doesn't know, those 2 athletic directors 1,000% know. Like I said, you just had one athletic director openly talking smack at the other one at a pep rally because he knew how much it would rile up the fans. They know exactly how much it means. Now, whether or not they care for whatever reason, I guess, again, we can ask about that, but they fully know how much it means. The significance to me is I wouldn't even say it's a non-answer. It's Brett Yormark he put the ball publicly in their court, basically. What he is telling you there, if you're a fan that wants to see this change, that answer was, you got to hit up your AD, man. Talk to this guy. Put some pressure on them. That's what you need to do if you want to make this game happen. That was Brett Yormark kind of passing the buck off in terms of the responsibility for it. So I think it was way more than a non-answer, just in my humble opinion there. So we'll see what happens, man. My stance always has been on this. I know people get frustrated with Brett Yormark for things like this, more like the running the conference stuff, like running conference operations stuff, running the conference from a big picture standpoint and like keeping it surviving and getting the best TV opportunities and deals and just, keeping the league alive and messaging and being aggressive, all these things that really matter in this day and age that didn't matter as much in the past. I think Yormark does an excellent job with those, so he gets some grace from me on things like this. That's, again, a part of the reason that I didn't go all in at him when most fans were when this stuff first came out with the scheduling matrix. But I understand why you would get frustrated, and this does seem like a pretty easy fix. You can run through it this first time, see how it goes. Hopefully you can if you get K-State, Iowa State corrected, that would be great. But after that, when you do it next time, I think it's pretty simple. I've seen people talk about this. It seems pretty simple to just, you keep KU, K-State, Iowa State, Colorado together. They're Big 8 brethren, right, that go way back. Have them play each other every year. One of the things that sucks as a fan right now in this era of college football is that you can look at the schedule and be like, we're not playing like hardly any of these regional teams and regional rivalries. If you're K-State, you've already lost Nebraska, you've lost Mizzou. Can we at least get KU, Iowa State, and Colorado every single year? You can package Arizona State, Utah, BYU together. Makes a lot of sense. Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, Baylor, TCU. Makes a lot of sense. Houston, UCF, West Virginia, Cincinnati. Makes a lot of sense. I know probably sucks the most for Houston out of that whole group. But if you're making more people happy as opposed to fewer, which right now you got a lot of people that are really upset and frustrated, I think you're going to be better off as a league. So I understand trying to develop some new rivalries. I understand what they were going for with the way they did that scheduling, but I would hope that by this point, if there continues to be enough public pressure on everybody involved here, that this will be different. And my lasting message here would be this should be some optimism for those of you that really, really, really want to see the change here. All right, let's check in with Teller 580. What's up, Teller 580? They kept the Arizona State-Arizona rivalry last game of the year. Yes, I believe that was one of they protected 4. It was Baylor, TCU, Arizona State, KU, K-State, Iowa State, or KU, K-State, and what is the other? Oh, and then the Holy War. I think that those are the 4 that were legitimately protected there. So yeah, glad that they kept Arizona State. Territorial Cup will remain, and doesn't mean that there's not a lot that got left out, right? Sad that the Big 12 has no butt this year. No butt. No Baylor, Texas Tech. No BU TT game this year, unfortunately. Please do like the video. Please do continue to fill up the chat. If you have a super chat, you can click the $ below the chat box in order to weigh in. Guarantee that your chat makes it on tonight. Would love it if you subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. 5,000 plus Big 12 fans do. And once you do that, you're going to get Big 12 news and my columns and insight to your inbox twice a week, totally for free, free of charge. Great way to stay informed with everything that's going on in the Big 12. John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo. If you are not watching this live and you would like to be a part of the conversation, you can drop me a line there. All right, so last week I quietly asked the question, did we miss a Big 12 title contender in Kansas? And this week, I may be going from a whisper to not quite a scream, but I'm going to say it pretty firmly. Did we miss a legit Big 12 title contender in Kansas? Did that happen? Because Kansas was picked 9th in the Gambling Gaucho's preseason media poll. And the early returns look like that may have been disrespectful to the Jayhawks. I think I had them 9th as well, because I had them at least 9th in my power rankings that I did in Open for Business. Again, ofbnews.com to subscribe. I had them picked 9th there, and I had someone. No. I had Kansas 8th because I had a BYU fan say, "Hey, I actually think we're legitimately better than Kansas. We should have been above them." That's my real one beef there. And I thought, well, okay, I can definitely understand that. I think Lance Leipold's a great coach, but that's kind of the difference right there. I would take Lance Leipold. I think just barely, a little bit more trust there. Plus, Kansas has the quarterback back, right? But man, if you were looking at the rest of the Kansas roster, it just looked like there was too much to replace. Devin Neal, the entire receiver room, and I just thought that receiver room was so underrated and good over the last 3 years for Kansas. 2 all Big 12 corners. I mean, it was a lot. Like that whole, some of the guys outside of Jalen Daniels, who were the real foundation of what happened over the last 4 years with Lance Leipold, they had all left. And there were 40 new players on the team, and they had to hit the portal really hard. And it's just like, unless you have a Texas Tech-esque portal haul with this like obvious talent that a lot of people are saying is 1 or 2 in terms of the best portal classes in the country, it's hard to be like, oh yeah, well then they're going to be really good total contender status. We gotta put them right into that status. It's hard to do that. The early returns are very good on this thing, people. The early returns are very good on this thing. Kansas 31, Fresno State 7. Kansas made a change at offensive coordinator this offseason. I think that early returns on that appear to be fantastic. It's not Jeff Grimes. Things were very, very sluggish for him starting, combined with, I think, some rust that Jalen Daniels was trying to knock off last year after he missed so much of the 23 season injured. Now, Jim Zabrowski is one of your co-offensive coordinators. He's been on the staff with Andy Kotelnicki, who was an all-star as Kansas's offensive coordinator. He had been the quarterback coach. Matt Lubick, who's the other co-offensive coordinator, he was on staff in 22 and 23 as an offensive analyst. Like, these guys were around when Andy Kotelnicki was just, to me, running the most fun and perhaps productive offense in the Big 12. I mean, it was so damn fun to watch, unless you were playing it, right? Like that's what you didn't want. And it was like Kansas went away from that to go hire Jeff Grimes, who had, it was certainly debatable how great his career had been at offensive coordinator at the P6 level. Now, or P5 level. I say that he gets hired at Wisconsin, and that's why he's not there. So I don't know. Maybe there's just something I'm missing, but it did not jive. It did not work at Kansas. And that offense that Kansas ran on Saturday, that sure looked a lot like an Andy Kotelnicki offense. It was fun. There was a triple option. They kind of leak somebody out and then throw it back to the back. I mean, it was so creative. The Ball State transfer receiver, I apologize, Kansas fans, I'm blanking on his name. But the way they creatively used him basically like out of the backfield for those two kind of swing pass touchdowns, it looked a lot like Kotelnicki. And I have been consistent in what I've said. You can call me a lot of things, but you can't call me inconsistent on what I have thought about Andy Kotelnicki and that Kansas offense from a couple of years ago. I thought he was a massive stud. There's a reason he's at Penn State. Shout out to our Penn State fan. I hope he's still around in the chat at this point. There's a reason that he coached them to a Final Four last year. Like, the guy is really, really good. And it made that thing go, and Jalen Daniels was like a perfect quarterback for it when he was healthy. And he looked confident. He looked sharp and crisp outside of taking some big hits. And I would share some of that concern that I saw people having for like, oh, man, I don't know that you need him taking big hits like that against Fresno with his injury history. But he was basically perfect, guys. I mean, Jalen Daniels was basically perfect in this offense that looked exactly like what it used to. 18 to 20, 176 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, 8 carries for 47 yards. Kansas scored on 4 of their first 5 drives. Jalen Daniels looked confident as hell. He looked totally in control. And the offense just looked fun and flashy, man. The other thing about this Kansas offense, when it's humming, when it looked like that, and when it looks like it did on Saturday, it's like, can you imagine recruiting to that? That looks great. You know, if you're a quarterback, it's like, dude, all this motion that we do, like I get guys high school wide open because of all the motion. And then if you're a tight end, like, man, get you involved in really creative ways. If you're a receiver, we'll find totally creative ways to get you the football too. It's great. And it looked awesome. Now, the question will be, and I know a lot of you are pushing back on me a little bit, certainly were early because of the title of this video. Are we watching 3 Big 12 playoff contenders in week 0? Is Kansas a legitimate playoff contender? I mean, fair question to ask. Like, is Fresno that bad? Matt Entz is a new head coach. They went 6-7 last year. They have a ton of new faces. They had a new starting quarterback who's on the road for the first time. And it was a full house where it's basically homecoming for Kansas, right? They didn't play a home game in 23 at that stadium. They have all these new fans back. So how do you know exactly what Fresno is? You don't. But that was dominant. That was total ass kicking. That was as good as you could have looked, I think, really in that spot if you are Kansas. I don't know that there's much that they could have done better. Penalties, I guess. I know it seemed like the offensive line, I guess, had some issues with penalties, but I don't know what more you could have really asked from Kansas in that spot. So the early returns seem very good and very, very promising. We will know a lot more in 2 weeks when they go to Mizzou. Like week 2 of the official football season, this being week 0, right? So they'll play a game against Wagner. We're not going to learn anything there. They're going to go to Mizzou after that, and we're going to learn a lot about Kansas at that point and whether or not you should be taking them seriously as a contender. But I would just tell you, this should at least put them on your radar. This should put them on your radar. Lance Leipold's a hell of a coach, man. He's a hell of a coach. And if they really pull this off and become a contender with 40 new players on the roster and just totally reloading after everything they lost last year, you gotta really recognize that. I don't know that dude's going anywhere in terms of being a real thorn in the side and one of the best coaches in the Big 12. Thorn in the side of the rest of the league. So right now, am I ready to fully say that we saw 3 Big 12 playoff contenders playing in week 0? No, I think you had, I would say 2, but I would divvy it up like this. I would say 1, some of you are going to hate this, the way that I do this. I would say 1 is Iowa State, outlined already before. because Iowa State has one of their toughest games out of the way and a fairly manageable looking Big 12 schedule right now. And then I would give like a half to K-State, where I think, I mean, if you believe Iowa State's a legit contender, K-State was right there. And then beyond that, I'm going to give Kansas a half right now for like, looks like they're really ascending, could have something really figured out this year. And, but we need to see how it looks against real competition that we know is legitimate. We're not really sure about Fresno. So I would say 2, but we're going 1 and 1/2 and 1/2. How's that for a take? How's that for a take, everybody? Michael, what's up, Michael? Great to see you here, my friend. Michael says, what up, John? Can't stay long. We'll catch up later. Good show as always. Keep it up. Go Cats versus Cougs. Trip to Arlington together. Well, there you go. So there's somebody in Michael who thinks that that K-State is one of those contenders still, if we're floating that out there. My Cats have a long way to go on that front, Michael. I will tell you that much. But like I said, they've still got the stuff to do it on the roster, at least. I think if they can find a little bit more of an edge, that'll be the drum that I will continue beating on this team for right now. Pretty talented, but don't seem to have enough of an edge, especially when it matters. Michael, I appreciate you. Teller 580, your K-State post-game co-host yesterday. Yeah, he was not thrilled. Cole was not thrilled. He now I will defend him a little bit in this manner. Like you're catching guys a diehard fan, and you're catching him moments. I mean, it was like 10 to 15 minutes after the game had ended, back-breaking rivalry loss. Think of all the times you have experienced that with your team and what it would be like if you then were given a microphone. Like, that's a difficult thing to do, man. It's a difficult thing to do. I have had, I feel like, a lot of experience over the years now, and even I've made an ass of myself sometimes. But over the, I spent a decade doing it full time, like working in it, covering games where it's like, yeah, I mean, I have been a K-State fan my entire life, but you got to really shut a lot of that off when you're like covering the team. You're going to a locker room, you're in a press box, all those things. So I just had a ton of experience doing that over the years, and probably a little bit easier, I think, for me to compartmentalize it. But that's what makes Cole great, man. He's great for the show. He lives it just like a fan. So shout out to my guy Cole Manbeck in the Three Mile podcast. Teller 580, Big 12 ain't got no butt. Damn. Yeah, no. Somebody call Sir Mix-a-Lot. Not much going on this year with no butt game. No butt game. All right, we are at about an hour. Look, there's a bunch of different things I could be talking about here. Like I said, we'll try to get to the SEC going to a 9-game schedule on Wednesday. What else? I think, judging by Big 12 Twitter, man, like Avery Johnson himself was just a big topic of discussion. And I think that requires like a really nuanced discussion to get to the bottom of like, what do we think Avery Johnson is right now? How has his career been covered? It felt I'll just a quick take here. It felt to me like a lot of Big 12 country has just grown sick of like the national hype that has surrounded him. And we're kind of just waiting to pounce on him. And so the slow, sluggish start that everyone was experiencing, Rocco Becht was awful in the first half. He was 6 of 17 at halftime, I think. But Avery Johnson was just getting dogged. And I think it's because everybody is looking around like, why has this guy gotten so much hype? And, Texas Tech fans seem really tweaked by it, which I think some of that comes from like Baron Morton doesn't get nearly as much attention. And look, you can absolutely, Baron Morton won at Iowa State last year, right? So like, I get it. I get why there is some of that animosity. And I would tell you, I think some of the national hype has been too high for him. But I think his game overall, he played a pretty good game. He's got to be the guy to make plays in clutch moments. And he didn't really get the big chance. What would have been great to see would have been if K-State's defense could have gotten a stop with 6 minutes and 20 seconds left in the game when Iowa State got the ball back in a three-point game after Avery Johnson did deliver a great ball on the run to Jaron Bradley for a long touchdown. He made the clutch play. If the defense gets a stop and then it's, hey, Avery Johnson, you got the ball, down 3, like a minute 40 left, no timeouts, What can you do against Iowa State, this big rival? You haven't been able to clear this hurdle. What's going to happen? Now, that would have been awesome to watch. Like that, who doesn't want to sign up to watch that? That would have been great. And Avery did not get that chance. So, in fairness to him, when I say like he didn't make the play on 4th and short, he also did not get the opportunity at the end of the game to like really, truly try to go do it. And I think for all of our sake, for K-State fans' sake, for the parts of Big 12 Twitter that were really, really frustrated by some of the hype that has surrounded him for a while, and they wanted to see what would happen there. I think everybody, we all deserved it. It would have been great to see him get that chance to prove some of the doubters wrong there and take a big step, because that's what you need to see. I mean, you want to see more consistency throwing the football, but I would also I would throw this out there for you. He's better when he's on the run. He's better off of play action. Maybe he's not ever going to be a guy that's just throwing dots back there into tight double coverage. But if K-State is able to find ways to, if they use him on the run, if he makes plays with his feet, if he buys time and he becomes a little bit more of like off-platform scramble route, less of a pocket passer, more of just a playmaker, maybe that's where he really truly starts to butt up against his ceiling, and it's, stop trying to jam square peg into round hole. Just a theory. I said it briefly before. I'll repeat it again, for the people that are kind of haters on it. I don't think it's really Avery Johnson's fault, but I think the hype has really it ballooned out of control on a national level, certainly before last season, and stuck around a bit this season too. People know his recruiting pedigree and people see the athleticism, and it's easy to get really carried away with the potential there. And that has just happened with him. And so you have a guy like Baron Morton who doesn't have quite that recruiting pedigree, doesn't have the jaw-dropping athleticism that Avery Johnson has been more of a grinder. I mean, the Rocco Becht, honestly, probably the same thing for Rocco Becht. More of just a grinder, gritty, tough. And look, Baron Morton had a fabulous statistical season last year too. And Rocco Becht did, throwing to 2 NFL receivers. Absolutely. But those guys are a little bit more like gritty, grindy, tough, not flashy, athletic, high 4-star recruit that Oregon wanted, that Dan Lanning was trying to track down. And so that creates animosity, whether you like it or not, whether it's Avery Johnson's fault or not. I understand why a lot of the Big 12 feels that way. I do. But I wouldn't throw in the towel on Avery Johnson yet, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't think it's fair to, because I do think he played pretty well. It was not rocketing the ball into tight windows or putting feathery touch on it with a defender draped all over his receiver 40 yards downfield. It wasn't that. But I don't think it has to be that. I think he can do it a bit of a different way because of his skill set, and that will be the real challenge for K-State to figure out how to utilize that. There's no doubt he was more accurate yesterday. He was 21 of 30, and he had 4 drops. Okay, he had 4 drops. He was 21 of 30. There was another ball that was batted down at the line of scrimmage. So, yeah, I mean, you put that on him. But if we're talking about, like, ball placement, there were, like, 2 early in the game that were bad in the rainstorm. When I don't think – I mean, he was awful throwing the ball in a rainstorm at Houston last year, too. Whether it's, like, not having hands big enough to grip the ball, something like that the rain, it really hurts him, it seems like, more than other quarterbacks. But he found it. He found it late in that game, and it was clear. He threw a great deep ball where there was just too good a coverage to really get in there to Jace Brown. It was close in the end zone. He looked more accurate and better throwing the football. Didn't get a chance to make the huge clutch play at the end. Got stonewalled on 4th and 1. Still looks to me more tentative and hesitant than he should when he's running the football. Leaves a lot to be desired as far as that goes. I'm not saying you should come away wowed with Avery Johnson, but I don't think it's time to bury Avery Johnson either. But it is certainly time to open up the discussion about best Big 12 quarterback to a lot of guys, a lot of players. Texas Tech fans were pissed that graphic that came up this weekend had like 7 Big 12 quarterbacks. It didn't have Baron Morton. Throw Baron Morton into the mix, man. We'll see. I call him legitimately the most important player in the Big 12 this year to see what he can do. Can he help elevate that roster and make it all come together that's been molded in the transfer portal? I think it will be fascinating to see. So, yeah, I guess we'll end on that. I guess I did get into the full Avery Johnson topic there, right? K-State fans, if I'm speaking to K-State fans specifically, my message on Avery would be, it's definitely not the time to bail there. If you take into account his full game, there was market improvement, I think, shown from last year, with still some of the same issues, which would be running the football and becoming a little, which is weird to say, but becoming more confident, tougher, a little bit more physical runner, I think would help him a lot. More decisive, physical, maybe reading blocks a little bit better. I think some of those things could really help. But he looked improved as a passer. His numbers were really good. And he did not wilt. When they got down by 10 with like 6 minutes left in the game, he didn't wilt. He went out and made a huge play. So progress, see what happens the rest of the year. That was week 0 in Ireland against a John Haycock defense with a rainstorm affecting the first half of the game. Let's just chill. Let's just chill out a little bit as far as that goes. Nationally, if you want to, I'm done with this Avery Johnson hype for now. He's got to prove it. That is totally fine. That is totally fine. I do think that is fair. No more of this hype just based on the athleticism and recruiting profile. Avery Johnson does need to go earn it and prove it if he's going to be mentioned among the best Big 12 quarterbacks. Totally with you on that, and that is fine. Just don't, that was not an Avery Johnson sucks game. That was definitely not that. Definitely not that. Okay. All right, we got in everything here on this show, man. Great stuff. It is great to be back talking Big 12 football, having actual games out there. Like I said, I'm excited enough that I'm kicking around the idea of trying to just do a watch along with you guys on either Thursday and or potentially Monday for North Carolina TCU. So if you guys have interest, let me know in the comments. And yeah, hopefully you'll be able to join me and we can do a little bit of that. Maybe I could get some people to hop on with me. We'll see what happens there. Try and make it a fun thing. But I know my guy Greg Flugar does a lot of those, seems to have a lot of fun with it. So it would be awesome to have you along for the ride for that. Anyway, take care. I hope you guys have a great rest of your Sunday night and an awesome start to your week. And I will talk to you all very soon. We'll see you.